Hello, my name's Sue Lewis and I'm going to be running you through this presentation which comes from a webinar that we did in January 2021. So this is about the Careerpilot Pathway Planner and it's specifically a session for those careers advisors that will be working in schools and colleges that are using the Careerpilot Pathway Planner. So what I want to show you through this presentation is the key parts of the system that you will engage with and show you how to use them. So Careerpilot developed from a bid we put into the Careers and Enterprise Company nationally in 2018, and that was to develop an idea of having a whole school approach to personal guidance using triage. In 2019-20 we piloted that approach in 6 schools and now it's ready to roll out to other schools. So in this session I'm going to be specifically talking about our 3-stage pathway planner model. Then I'll show you how you can access all the data and reports that are created through the students using the site. I'll show you how you can use those reports to allocate guidance, and then I'll talk about some of the administration processes the system can help you with. I haven't got time today to look at Careerpilot in any detail, but if you do want to know more about the Careerpilot website, which has been going since 2011 and is a well-established one-stop careers website, then we have a whole series of different webinars and you can access those via the Advisor Zone. So Careerpilot is a suite of 4 different zones that come together to provide information, advice and support in one place for students, advisors, parents, and the reporting zone as well, where data captured from the students' choices is available for schools to access. So the Pathway Planner is built into Careerpilot, so you have to be a Careerpilot school and then you purchase the Pathway Planner as an add-on to your main system. So Careerpilot, I'm just showing you the headlines as these bits are particularly relevant for Pathway Planner users. So Careerpilot is an open access one-stop careers website. Anybody in the country could look at this bit, but if you're a subscriber, your students can register and then they can use the career tools, and that enables them to actually think about the things they're particularly interested in. So my job sectors, my providers, if they do one of our quizzes they can add the data here and save it, and that all contributes to them having a report of all the choices they're interested in, which they can adapt at any time. And that data populates the reporting zone. So as a school you can find out what choices young people are interested in. You can also access the advisor zone and the parent zone from this one place. So with careerpilot.org.uk you can access all different parts of the site. So we are careers advisors, so we're very keen to encourage students to come back to a process they can use whenever they're making a career decision. So we've got here 3 stages: start with you, explore your options, plan your next steps, and a lot of our resources are structured under these sections. So just to explain, start with you has got activities for different ages tied in with age and stage and key decisions, quizzes to help them get started, start with the subject and find out where it might lead, the skills map which helps skills young people recognise they will already have a lot of skills and shows them how they can use those things when they're applying, and then a qualification planner. And then it's explore your options, and they could do that in a range of ways: by age, what my choice is 16, or by jobs or courses, plenty of vacancies. In the site we have over 1,000 video stories all tied into jobs and qualifications, so they could look at those as well. And then it's what you're going to do with all this information, how you plan your next steps, so they can use their report, their skills map, and as they're going through there could be action planning. Every time they have a career session they can think of 1 or 2 things they're going to do to move their career forward. So one thing that's really important for students to understand is that in order to get things on their report they need to tag the things they're interested in. So the top right hand corner of most pages is an option to add that page or the job into their career tools. So in this case it's a job, animal care worker. So if they click on that, that'll be added to their sectors and as a job, but they can go back and change it, get rid of it at a later time if they change their mind. But this is a key bit they need to understand when they're using the site. So that all contributes to the report I've mentioned, which can be quite detailed, and even before we had the Pathway Planner we always use the report to prepare for guidance because you can find out a lot about the students. So it can be quite detailed, has all the things they've been choosing, And you can also write your advisor report straight onto the site, and then it's visible to the student and anybody else within the school. That report moves up annually, so we save a snapshot on August 31st, but there's always a live report they can keep updating. So I want to focus in now on the Pathway Planner. So the Pathway Planner is developed from the bid we put into the Careers and Enterprise Company. And when we bid, we had to show how our model would meet Gatsby 8, but also how it met the criteria of effective guidance. So this comes from a Careers and Enterprise Company research report called Personal Guidance What Works. So our model fits with these key criteria of effective guidance. And one part of that is to have a level 6 qualified person delivering the guidance. And we do deliver that qualification at Careerpilot. So in all our pilot schools, we train somebody up to level 6. And that is available to other people. We have to pay for places. So this is our model, and we piloted this with year 11s and year 12s last year, and now it's ready for other people to use. So it starts with what we call our pre-guidance session. So this is a preparation session which is focused on the option choices that are available to the students at the next stage. So we know schools will do all sorts of things to prepare for option choices, but on this 1 hour session in an IT room, we're going to make sure they know all the options available to them, and we're going to give them time to explore them on Careerpilot. And then for the last 10 minutes of the session, we're going to ask them to do the Pathway Planner. And here's where we're saying, okay, you've had time to explore your options, which are you interested in? Then they do a quiz to find out how ready they are for their pathway, and they get given a red, amber, green score. What you get is lots of data and information that's going to help you to allocate guidance according to need. Lots of reports, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Then you can use Careerpilot as part of the guidance, record your report straight onto Careerpilot, and then about 4 weeks after guidance, tutors are trained to do a follow-up by asking 3 key questions. And if they're at all concerned about the student, they can pop them back into other guidance we wrapped around this model. So for example, at least 1 lunchtime a week was drop-in. Students could request e-guidance. They could self-refer, but also the tutors could refer them as well. So it's Gatsby 8 plus, I would say. So the pre-guidance session is going to be focused on option choices, then they're going to do the Pathway Planner. So this is to make sure they all know the options. And as one careers advisor said, I used to say this 200 times with our year 11s when they came to my guidance. Now I know that's been done before, I can really focus in on what that individual student might need in terms of careers guidance. So it's also that they have time to explore the things they're interested in, tag the things they like, and that gets them ready for doing the Pathway Planner. So I'm just giving you a speed lesson now to give you an example. We created some lessons that our schools can use, they can adapt them, but it is a structured lesson for schools to use, one for year 11 and one for year 12/13. So a quick run through, it'll start with an activity, we show them some values and they have to think about the 3 that most drive them. I'm just making the point that if you know what drives you, that can help you make a choice about your future career. And then we'd show them the levels, the pathways, where they are currently, the sort of decisions they're making in year 12, maybe moving from level 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. And then we go through each of the pathways, just in highlight, but just making sure they understand how apprenticeships work and the key points of each of the pathways. So we'll have apprenticeships, gap years, something about progression to a HE in a college, HE in a university, sponsored degrees, just showing them all the different options so we know that everybody in the room understands the different things available. Then they'll have some time on Careerpilot and we'll direct them to particular things that would be useful for them to explore. And then in the last 10 minutes of the session, we're going to explain about the Pathway Planner. So if you're in a Pathway Planner school, it's switched on for the students here. And the students, we explained that we're going to find out which pathway they're interested in, having spent most of the hour talking about those things, and then we're going to find out what support they need so we can actually provide the support that matches their particular needs. So this is a post 16 version, so these are about the pathways at 18. So there's a different version for year 11. So they choose which pathways they're interested in. They have to say if they're definitely considering or not doing. And then for each one they definitely are considering, they start the guidance quiz. So you can see here for the pathway university level study, it's asking them questions about how ready they are for their pathway. And these are put together by careers advisors. And at the back end, there's some scoring attached to these, because some of these, if there's a note to some of these things, that would be a red flag question. So what they get, they don't see all the scoring, but what they get as students is a red, amber, green score showing how ready they are for the pathways they're definite or considering. So you can see this student for university level study is definite, but they're amber. So that shows there's some sort of gaps in the things that they need to do in order to be ready for that pathway. They're red for apprenticeships, but they're just considering that. So the way we allocate guidance, we've tried this out a lot in the pilot, is that we go by the definite pathway, and then we use that as the way of actually allocating the starting level of guidance. So all the students are going to get guidance, which is obviously Gatsby 8, and there will be different levels of guidance. They don't necessarily know that, but they will get the guidance they need according to what they have said through the pathway planner. So that all meets Gatsby 8, and what we did in the pilot, we had, if they were green, they got a 20-minute check, but if they did come along and they weren't as sorted as maybe that was indicating, then they could be asked to come along for a drop-in. So there's other ways to pick them up. 30 minutes for amber, 60 minutes for red, and red was anybody who's definite about a pathway showing red, or anybody who's shown as having an additional need, and any student who might be thinking about apprenticeship and college because they might need that additional support because those pathways are a little bit more complicated. So students could also see a timeline which showed them where they were on a particular date, and I'll show you that later. After the first guidance was set up, they could request additional guidance themselves. So they could ask an e-question, or they could ask for a session, and they would be invited to a drop-in. So I've showed you all the things I've showed you so far from the student side. So you can see it's quite easy for students to complete the pathway planner. But what it does give you a rich seam of data that you can use from the reporting zone. So if you're in a pathway planner school, this is switched on for you. Pathway planner, results and bookings. So if you click on that and you find a group of students, it could be a whole year group or a tutor group, then you'll be able to see this data. If they'd done it in year 11, it would appear here, but this group have just done it in post 16. So now I can see all their pathways, what they're interested in, but also how ready they are for those pathways. There's a few other things I could do here as well. I could see when they last updated their pathway planner. So at any time a student could go in and edit their responses. So there might be the pre-guidance session, some students will have gone off on their own steam and actually found out the answers to some of the things they need to do or moved things forward. So you can see when they last did it. The various actions you could perform against each student, which I'll show you in a minute. The other things you can see here, if you have book guidance, if you've done it, it'll show as pink. If it's coming up, it'll show as green. And just to show you, that little blue circle means this student, the second one down, is tagged as additional needs. So what we'll do then is just look at the line of information. And for this top student, they're considering two pathways: university level study, they seem to be quite well informed about; employment, they're amber. But because they're choosing two pathways and they don't have a definite pathway, we'll probably give them the 30-minute guidance so that we can just tease out what their plans are in this regard, especially with COVID, if they're thinking about employment. The second one down is already tagged as additional needs, so irrespective of what they're saying, they will get the maximum guidance, but they also are quite unsure about what to do because they're considering multiple pathways, so they would definitely need a longer session. Next one down, it would be a longer session as well because they're definite about a pathway they're red for, and it's an apprenticeship, so they would get the additional guidance. This one will get amber because they're definite about employment, which, you know, they seem to know quite a lot about it, but because employment is quite uncertain, especially at the moment, I think we would probably get them in for a 30-minute session, try to explore that a little bit. They're clearly thinking about gap year as well, and obviously there's challenges about that too currently. So you use your judgment, you're looking at the data, you can look at their answers and responses as well to help you decide what level of guidance. The one at the bottom is a little less complicated. They're definite about university, they know quite a lot about it, so we'll give them a 20-minute check-up plan and then see how that goes. So just remember, the definite takes priority over considering. If you just start there, we find that works quite well in terms of deciding what level of guidance to give to students. So this is just a summary of the things I've said about who's guessed the green, amber, red guidance, and just also use other data too, like grades. So if they want to go to university and they seem to know a lot about it, but you know that their grades are borderline, you might want to give them longer. So use your judgment, use your additional data, but this will certainly help you get started and sort out which students might need which starting level of guidance. As I mentioned, there's various actions you could perform against each student, so I'm just going to show you some of those now. So you can view their answers, so that's always really useful, especially as a guidance advisor in advance of guidance. You can have a look and see what the particular things are that are holding them up and stopping them being green. You can view their timeline, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. You can book guidance from here. You can do a one-liner, which is a summary at the end of guidance about what their student now wants to do. Tutors can follow up and show that here, and also you can write your advisor report, if you like, from this point too. So I'll just show you quickly. I'll start with booking guidance. This is easy. It might be you doing this or the careers leader. You will need to work that out in your school about who's actually in charge of booking the sessions. So what you could do is put the session name, meet Miss Lewis in room 305, whatever you call it in your school or college, date, time, and then you can put what sort of guidance you're offering. So it'll just appear as long, medium, check-in. It won't have times against it. If a student drops in, you can record that too, or if they self-refer or the tutor referral, all those things can be recorded so that you've got a whole record of all the interventions you've given to that particular student. I'll just put in our times there to remind you what we did in that pilot. So timeline, I mentioned that a few times, so the students can see this and you can see it too. And this shows where the students were on a particular date. So when they did the pathway planner, this student on the 28th of November, it was 2 reds and an amber. Then they had a long guidance intervention on the 24th of February. At the end of guidance, you must always ask them to edit their responses on the pathway planner, because you're all the time trying to kind of move them on. So this student was then green and amber. So you can keep doing this until you get to a point where the students are in a good position to make their next step decisions. There's a few other things here. Progression follow-up. So this is where you can do this one-liner after guidance. So it's not visible to the students. This is for your own records. So as they're going into guidance, I can be writing, yeah, they want to do A levels. They're pretty definite. They're definite by this. These are the subjects they said they want to do, and this is how likely they are to get the grades. You can put firm, likely, borderline, and you could add another pathway too if they've still got something else that they're considering. So in terms of the tutors, we train the tutors, which takes about 20 minutes, to ask 3 questions of their tutees. So it could be tutors, it could be heads of 6, whoever is the most appropriate person in the school or college. So the 3 questions are, this happens about a month after guidance, are you clear about which pathway? How are you getting on with your actions? Do you feel you have the information you need to move on in your chosen pathway? So if they just missed out on an action or 2, we're not too worried about that. But if they really are not sure about their pathway after this guidance intervention, then we would want the tutor to refer them in. So the tutors can actually log their follow-up here. All they simply do is put if it took place and whether they think the student needs additional guidance. Then that's all visible through, you got the progression follow-up report that you can look at for every group set up for the pathway planner. And what you can see here is your one-liner, but also what the tutors are saying. So you could look down that and see if they're requesting additional guidance. And then you could set up suggest that student comes sort of drop in. So in a minute, you could have a little play with that if you've got access to your own school's pathway planner. If not, you might have to get a login from your school so you can do it. But let me just explain how you log on. So once you've got your password for the reporting zone, you're going to log on exactly the same place as the students. So when you get in there, you're going to be able to access the dashboard for your school's reporting zone. Mine's called the Planner Academy, which is just my training school, but yours will be called the name of your school. the school you won't be able to see any of this unless the school requested access to the reporting zone, which they can do through the advisor zone by completing a data sharing agreement. So then you can access the Pathway Planner, results and bookings, pick any of the groups that are available to you. You'll only be able to see the ones you've been given access to, and then you can actually look at the results and actions. More or less everything comes from this top one, but there are other options there like manage bookings or the progression follow-up report as well. So then you can get in the dashboard, and then you can perform the actions against each student. Just to say too, once you've got lots of bookings set up, you can look at them in the bookings report, which is there, manage bookings, and then you could sort out your list. You could look at what you've got coming up today by putting them in date order. You could sort them by types. One other thing you could do is put did not attend, and that will appear on the student's timeline. You don't have to record when they did attend, because that will happen by date and time, but if they did not attend, then you can do that too. And in terms of other things you can do here, you can also add your advisor comments or see other comments written by other advisors. So if you click on advisor comments, that shows you the full report of anything that the student has done and any previous advisor comments, and then you can add one of your own. So you have options to add action points, which you can agree with the students, and also your advisor comments. So if you do any action points, they'll appear here for the student, and the report will appear here. One of the nice things about doing the report on Careerpilot, we find as careers advisors, is the flexibility to be able to add internal links and external links to wherever you write in. So our report's much shorter than they used to be. So instead of explaining what the animal job sector is, you could put something like explore the Careerpilot animal job sector, as we discussed in our session, and highlight the wording that you want to link to, so like a hyperlink, and then choose internal link, and you get the contents of Careerpilot. So what you can do now is, if you click on job sectors, if it's blue, you can drill down to different levels. So you can pick up the animal job sector, click on the link, and then that will be added in, so the students can get straight to that bit of the site. You can also add external links as well. So same thing, you identify some text that you want the link to appear against. You have to obviously get the link from a website, in this case Exeter University. This is an external link, and then you add it in there, and then that means it'll go straight to that place. So you really can help the students to be able to do more of actually actively researching, but also getting them right to the bit of information that's going to be the most useful for them. So we're almost at an end, but just a few things. We've talked about how you set up the initial guidance through the Pathway Planner, but you might want to talk to your schools about what other guidance might be on offer. So I mentioned things about having a drop-in session once a week, and then having self-referral and e-guidance. Just to say, if a student does put in e-guidance question through Careerpilot or they self-refer, those requests go to the guidance advisor attached to that particular group that the student's in. So if they're in 11SL and you were the guidance advisor, those are the ones that would come to you. There might be another guidance advisor doing some of the other year groups or whatever. If the tutors refer, as I showed you, you can see that in the progression report. So you might want to find out what your school is offering in terms of this wraparound guidance to pick up anybody who's still concerned. We have a poster template that we've given to schools so they can adapt this and flag up to students what is actually on offer to the students. So let me just do a summary of what we've talked about so far. So we've talked about how you can view the results, and then you can allocate guidance to meet the needs of students at 3 levels. Then the guidance will take place. You can use Careerpilot to help with aspects of that. You can write reports and actions on Careerpilot. Don't forget to ask the student to redo the Pathway Planner, because that's about how your guidance is impacting on them and helping them move on to being green or amber. You can write your one-liner, your planned progression one-liner about where they are after guidance, and you can also write your full report on Careerpilot. Then there's lots of information there to help the tutor when they follow up 3 or 4 weeks later. They can ask the 3 questions, but a lot of tutors are really interested to be able to look at this additional information as well. So some of the key things, if you're going to be able to use the Pathway Planner, is that you need to have access to it. So things you can talk to your school about this is just to make sure you understand the students have to register themselves. You can't register them, they have to register themselves. Then the school have to allocate them to Pathway Planner groups, and then they're in groups, and for every group they have to have a careers advisor attached to them. So it's important that your school have done that. They've given you access to the groups as a careers advisor, and then you're the person who can make bookings, or maybe the careers leader has that role with you as well. So it's key that you are attached as a careers guidance advisor to each of the groups that you have that role with. Now the person who could do that is somebody who's called the school admin. So they've got high level access to Careerpilot. They can see everything and set up staff. So that's the person you need to talk to. It might be a careers leader. If you're stuck and you're not sure who to get to talk to, then do get in touch with us and we'll be able to tell you who your school admin person is. So we've got lots of resources that support the Pathway Planner. They can be accessed here in the Advisor Zone, and there's resources for the students, the student presentation. We've done user guides of all the different parts of the Pathway Planner process. So they're little videos, so if you want a little reminder, those will be in there. The tutor training, you can see how that works. The poster I mentioned, all those things are in Careerpilot in the Pathway Planner tile, and then the resources of the second option down on the left hand side. So if you have any questions about the Pathway Planner, we do have a helpline. It's available from 9 till 3 every day in term time. So careerpilot@bath.ac.uk, or there's the telephone number. Just the last few things, if you'd like to see the research that we conducted as part of the Careers and Enterprise Company, in the Advisor Zone we do have a tile called the Careers and Enterprise Company bid, and in that there's case studies, there's a research report. Here's an example of a case study written by our schools. We've also got surveys that we used at the end of each guidance session. So there's one for green, one for amber, one for red, because we wanted to know the impact. So if in your school you wanted to take out questions and set up your own survey monkey, then you'd be very welcome to do that. We have lots of amazing quotes about the impact of the Pathway Planner as well. Just a little tip, once you've got your login to the reporting zone, you can then move between the reporting zone and the student zone quite easily. So if you're in, and there's your name at the top, if you want to see the student site, you can just do that and you're back in there. And you could try out the career tools. Unfortunately not the Pathway Planner, because that's not part of the the career tools options here. But once you want to get back, you can just click under your name and then you're back into the admin area. So you can toggle, if you like, between both of those. And just here's the result of our surveys when we asked students who'd had green or amber or red guidance how useful that session been for them. What you can see is not a great lot of difference between them. 4.4 out of 5 for green, same for amber, 4.6 out of 5 for red. So it did have, was useful to students. We did ask about the timings. For over 80% of them, the timing was fine. But that wasn't an issue because you could put them into drop-in if you felt they needed more time, or they did. Interestingly, a lot of the students had the longest time, wanted even more. So, it is always difficult to meet complete demand. And that is a key thing for your school to be thinking about, is what they're going to offer in terms of red, amber, green guidance. So that's the end of my presentation today. So thank you so much for coming along and listening to this, and do get in touch with the helpline should you have any particular queries.